I took an unexpected trip to Rajasthan, and maybe I should get over myself that, things are happening unexpected and happening step by step. But I always have to preface with that because maybe that's just the best thing is when things happen unexpectedly, unplanned. When you take things one step at a time, when you put the intention out to the universe of show me what the next thing is for me, that those next things appear quite clearly. If you are, doing it, asking with intention and seeing those signs, like recognizing when, hey, this is not a coincidence. This is something that is destined for me to see. So, anyways, I ended up in Rajasthan because a friend of mine, Lauren, and her boyfriend, Tarek, from London were in India. And even Lauren had told me, like, hey, I'm going to be in India. I'm going to be in these places. And at the time, I was like, I don't know, I probably won't see you. But like I said, things just worked out. I had some time in my schedule and timing just seemed to line up perfectly. So I ended up joining them in Udaipur and Pushkar. And then I made my way on to Jaipur itself. And I think the thing I wanted to talk a lot about, or talk mainly about my time in Rajasthan is just the notion of arts and culture and traditional arts, traditional techniques of doing things. When we were in Udaipur, we went on this hidden gems tour of Udaipur. So it didn't cover the main sites. So it didn't cover things like the city palace or just the main sites that people typically go to Udaipur to see. We had this tour guide who was from Udaipur and was so passionate about teaching people about the actual culture, the arts, the traditions in Rajasthan. So he took us to some local markets. And I know when you hear the word like local market, it doesn't sound like it's anything, exciting. But where he took us to the areas where, for example, they did all the metal work. And traditionally, there were communities of people who would live in the same area. All their shops would be in the same area, and they would make metal pans, metal pots, all by hand. He took us to an area where it was the whole clay pot making area, and all of these are like ancient old traditions of like the ways of making these clay pots. They take the mitti, the clay from the ground. From somewhere, obviously not in the city of Udaipur, but from, locally, they take the mitti, they sort out the stones, they, purify it a little bit, but then take that and then make these clay pots, these diyas. They make piggy banks that, in order to get the money out, you have to break it. And it makes me remember, when you're a kid and you actually had a piggy bank and you put coins away in something, which we don't do today. We just have all these digital forms of money. And, we walked through these areas, and each area had each neighborhood had a distinct sort of profession to it. So one was, like I said, this metalwork, one was clay pots, and we saw some people who were like actually painting the pots using 2 brushes at a time. And I guess each pot or maybe each family has like a slightly different design of how they design these. And, one of the things one more place we went to, which was really cool. We went to this one area where there were these ladies who were taking these particular leaves and then turning them into these biodegradable plates and bowls. And these traditionally were used in the past. Like, we used to eat off leaves. Like, we didn't have plastic plates, all this stuff. And what he was saying is, like, nowadays people don't use these, but there are people who are eco-conscious. And when they have a wedding or a function, they do want to source these things. So that's mostly where these bowls and plates are being sold to. And, these were just ladies, like, literally just, like, sitting out on the street, like, making them. We got to talk to one of these ladies, this older lady, and she just loves to take a picture with everyone and give everyone a hug. So we all went and just like sat with her, took a hug, took a picture, and it was just so heartwarming. And it made me think, like, actually Tarek had asked this question. He's like, if you were in India, what job would you have? And I was like, well, I don't know what job I would have, but I would definitely have a job where I did what this old lady does, which is just give everyone a hug and smile. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that'll be part-time of whatever my job is. So that was really sweet. And she even gave us these like medicinal balls that she was hand making. They have like tamarind and some other spices in it, and it's supposed to be good for your gut. And I just asked her, I was like, what are you making? And then she just gave us some to try, which was very sweet as well. Man, I can't remember what I was talking about, but I think the point I was trying to get to is that, there's all these handicrafts, that we see, in India, in other places, but I don't think we appreciate the fact that these have been going on for generations and generations, but slowly these are dwindling away. Like, everyone is trying to move to the city, earn more money, get another job, do things efficiently, use manufacturing processes. But it makes me realize that there are some of these ancient art forms that are going to be lost. Even we went to this beautiful Rajasthani folk dance show in Udaipur, and we also went to another one in Pushkar as well. And so there were beautiful dances like Ghumar, Kalbelia. There were these, traditional instruments, musical instruments that were used. There were these singers. One of the singers, he said, he was a civil engineer, and he decided to quit civil engineering and come back to singing, this art form, to be with his family, to carry on this tradition. And when they were singing, it was him, his father, who was 70 years old, his son, who was like 6 years old, and his other son, I can't remember how old he was, maybe like 15 or something like that. And it was so beautiful to see them singing together and sharing this, this art, this joy. And one of the things that this tour guide had told us when we were in Udaipur is, some of these arts that we're seeing, these handicrafts, we might not have them in another 30 to 50 years. And in one generation, all of this can change. And it kind of made me think, like, oh my gosh, we're on this cusp of like losing arts and losing culture. And I just don't know. It made me feel, it kind of just gave me a bit of a reality check where, you go to museums and you see these like pots that are like handmade and things like this. You see things from like 1800, 1600, all this kind of stuff. I don't know what you guys think. When I look at them, I'm like, okay, cool. But I feel like I was seeing some of this stuff in Rajasthan, and I'm like, oh, I understand the importance of this. Like, we could be on the cusp of losing this, and this is just going to be an artifact in a museum that someone just looks at and is like, all right, cool. Like, I have, my modern technologies of these pots and pans, and I'll just use these. And you kind of think of these people as primitive, but like, they're not. Like, we came from this ancient culture where we understood nature, we reused things, we use things from nature. These clay pots, when they're done, when they're broken, they just break them down and then use them for other things, It doesn't go into a garbage pile. And another thing, which was really, really amazing, is when I was in Jaipur, I got to go learn dance from this woman, Meena Sapera. Sapera actually means snake charmer, which is really cool. And she comes from a family who carries this tradition for generations. They've been doing these dances. She said that the way these dances were done is these ladies would go into the markets and would dance, and it was so impressive. And then people would, pay them because they would bring this dance and it would be so joyful. And some time ago, the government realized, there was this art, and then took them abroad to the US, and then that's where, this dance got more of a platform and got more recognition. But otherwise, it was something that was just sort of done in local villages. So I had the chance to learn Ghumar, which is sort of like a softer dance, involves lots of spins. That was really beautiful. It actually reminded me a lot of Gujarati folk dance, and I don't know, there's just something about some of these folk dances that, I don't know, they just touch my heart, or somehow they just feel familiar. And Galbelia, which is the snake charming dance that I also got to learn, it's just filled with so much energy, so much cushy happiness, and the moment you do it, you just feel really good. I can't explain it. Ghumar was really nice, but doing Galbelia just immediately lifted my spirits even more. And I had this beautiful chat with Meena and her husband Yash, and we were talking about the same thing, about arts and preserving arts, and how just the importance of it. Everyone is focusing on these city lives. They're so stressed, they're doing all these other things, but are we making art? And I told her about my dance history, that when I was young I did Gujarati folk dance, Ras, Garba. I did some Bharatanatyam when I was younger, did a little bit of Kathak. Now I just mainly do Bollywood, and I do a bit of heels dance, which is really fun too. And I was telling her a bit I'm not perfect at any of these, and telling her I do different styles, and she was like, no, this is good, learn different styles. She's traveled the world. She's been to France, she's been to Spain, she's learned flamenco, on top of all of this. And I should add, she can't read or write, which is kind of incredible. This is what Yash told me, her husband told me. She can't read or write, but she has this beautiful art form, all of this knowledge of art, which we're not appreciating as much anymore in today's world. And she said to me, she was learn as many styles as you want. There's benefit in all of them, and we need to be doing things from our heart, not just, just day-to-day stuff. And it was just such a beautiful message that we should be learning art, we should be carrying on some of these things. I'm not saying oh my gosh, we all need to go and all of us need to only stick to traditional forms of art, right? There is this piece of, this is how things evolve, this is how creation comes, how innovation comes. There will be new forms of dance, but learning the different styles, honoring the different styles, and supporting those who are preserving the traditional styles, right? I think, I hope that I will have more opportunities to see more traditional art forms, get to watch them. If I get to learn some, that's great too. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about this experience in Rajasthan, and I'm probably only covering a small slice of the traditional hand forms that they have there. Obviously there's the block printing, which is a form of with cotton cloth, they hand print, they use these dyes. Traditionally they were all natural dyes as well. There's that, there's all the jewelry, polki. Polki is a type of is it polki or kundan? See, even I have more to learn, but I can't remember the exact distinction. But the way of crafting these uncut diamonds and shaping them and making them as beautiful as they are. So I guess that's just the theme of my Rajasthan trip. And the cherry on top for me was I got to go to this yoga class. I went a couple of times. It was outdoors. It was in Udaipur by Lake Pichola, and it was the same style of yoga that I trained in, that I truly connected with, that I first fell in love with. It's called Vinyasa Krama, and it's very hard to find teachers who practice this. And I was just so blessed to get to meet a beautiful teacher, someone who I connected with, and get to take a few of her classes. So that was just an extra little cherry on top for me, and just made me feel I don't know, it just was like a little piece of home. And funnily enough, when I went and I looked at the yoga mat that I was using while I was there, it was the exact same shade of purple, and underneath was the exact same shade of pink of the yoga mat that I used to have back in London. So I don't know, just a small little coincidence that just made me feel really great. Anyways, I hope you liked this little episode on Rajasthan culture and my experience there.